I am going to challenge you with some super advanced phrasal verbs to help you supercharge your vocabulary. So this is a way to explore new words, think about the situation in which you're going to use these phrasal verbs because they are very specific. They're not ones that you're going to just casually use every single day when you walk out the door, but they are going to help you, especially if you want to develop your overall speaking fluency. And if that is something that you're interested in doing, please subscribe, turn on notifications. That way I can become your teacher. My name is Wes. The channel is Interactive English. It's all about helping you reach your fluency goals. So let's just go ahead and jump into it with the first one right here. So I'm giving you the first letter of the main verb followed by the particle. So just try to think about the phrasal verb that best completes this sentence. The government announced that it would gradually out the use of coal-powered plants. The government announced that it would gradually out the use of coal-powered plants. So you see that the main verb, it starts with the letter P. Which phrasal verb am I referring to? Out. I want you to write your answers in the chat, in the comments. I just want to hear from you. I love it when people participate. After all, this is interactive English. The government announced that it would gradually out the use of coal-powered plants. So this is something that I think many countries around the world are starting to do. They are gradually going to use coal-powered plants or try to less and less. And in that case, they are going to phase out the use of coal power plants. You guys nailed that. Great job. The meaning of to phase out is to gradually stop using or producing something. A lot of times you may end up using it with that adverb, gradually, to gradually phase something out. So it's not like you're stopping completely. You're just going to do less and less over time until, you're just not doing it anymore. So I want to give you some more examples. And in this case, I have some news headlines. It's another way of trying to, put it into context, give you a better understanding as to how this phrasal verb is used. So here are just some recent news headlines using this phrasal verbs. Swastikas on some Finland Air Force flags to be phased out. So over time, it's just going to go away. The next one, Florida will phase out certificates of completion for students with disabilities. So they have these certificates and then they're going to phase them out. And then finally, Disney announces plans to phase out standalone Hulu app. So in all of these instances, they're going to gradually reduce the use of this until it's just no longer there. And often I think you may hear this more in a business context, because they have something's going on, some activity, and you just want to phase it out over time. I do want to mention, if you are interested in getting and accessing these lesson notes that you see right next to me here, click on the link in the description, join my email community, and you can have access to these notes so that you can remember these phrasal verbs. If you are already a part of the community, check your inbox. I have sent them to you already. The next one. Oh no. Okay, let's pretend that you didn't see that. So I expect many correct answers. After a few hours, the effects of the drug were starting to off. I anticipate there are going to be many correct answers. But think about the situation, even if you saw the previous slide. Think about the context as to what's being said in the sentence. After a few hours, the effects of the drug were starting to what? And in this case, obviously, over time, it's going to weaken. So what phrasal verb has that same meaning? If something weakens, it's starting to off. Of course, the main verb starts with a W. I'm seeing many correct answers. Great job, Lali, Manuel, Takayo, Julia. Perfect. Give some shout outs. To wear off. So I know this already slipped in there, but if you say that something wears off, the effectiveness diminishes over time. So it's just not as intense. And this is a perfect example. Thinking you take some type of drug, medication, painkiller, over time, it's going to wear off. And it's just not going to have the same intensity, and something wears off. So this is a common context when talking about medications that you could use this phrasal verb. And there are some others as well. I want to, I couldn't help myself. This is just a funny little meme using this phrasal verb. Botox injections begin to wear off. And you can see that little dog right there. It's certainly wearing off in that case. And you can see all those wrinkles right there. But again, it's good to have a little fun and enjoy these English lessons. That's what learning should be all about. All right, at least in my opinion. So let's look at the next one. The prosecutor had to out the charges against the suspect in court. Now, based on the context, this one may be a little more challenging to try to come up with, but I think maybe you could put it together. The prosecutor had to out the charges against the suspect in court. In this situation, think that maybe the suspect did not understand what the charges were. Or maybe the suspect was a little confused about, okay, what's going on? And then the prosecutor had to it out. So I'm already giving you another context to go by. So what the main verb, it begins with an S. You're going to something out. It has a specific meaning, and I think this is a phrasal verb that is certainly more advanced, but I imagine it is one that you have heard before. If you watch movies or TV shows in English regularly, I'm certain that you've probably heard this at one point or another. And you are going to, in this case, not suss out. It's a good guess. In this case, spell out. To spell something out is to explain something in a very clear way. The prosecutor had to spell out the charges against the suspect in court. Now, think about the meaning to spell something out. The literal meaning would be to, well, give you the spelling. If you don't know a word and you say, well, wait, I'm trying to write this word, I don't know it, and say, oh, I can spell it out for you. And in that case, I'm giving you the individual letters and explaining it to you in a clear way. Now, more informally, you can use this with this meaning right here. You're explaining something or trying to explain something in a clear way. There are different contexts in which you could use it, and I wanted to share that with you right here. The first one that comes to my mind, if you are frustrated with someone because they don't understand something, you might say, oh, do I have to spell it out for you? So maybe I'm trying to share something with you and I'm giving you a hint. Like, I don't want to say it out loud and I just want you to know what I'm talking about. I'm like, hey, what's going on? And maybe you're just like, wait, I don't understand. Okay, do I have to spell it out for you? Do I have to explain it clearly? This is a question. This is the one I'm thinking of. If you watch a lot of movies, TV shows, you may hear somebody use that statement. Or they might say, look, let me spell it out for you. Let me explain it to you clearly. In a professional context, such as the one, well, not the one, that was more legal, but professional, like the contract spells out the responsibility of both parties and it explains it clearly. Or the teacher spelled out the grading criteria at the beginning of the semester. And again, they explain it clearly. They spell it out. And then finally, in a legal context, like the example, the law spells out the penalties for tax evasion, or the agreement spells out the terms of payment. So there are different situations that you can use this phrasal verb in. All the meaning is the same with all of them. You are just explaining something in detail in a clear way to spell something out. How about this one? What do you think? She was a gifted teacher who never down to her students. This is, I don't know if you can see it, it's a 3-word phrasal verb, down to. So that is the 3-word phrasal verb. and I tried to highlight it in like that little yellow color right there. She was a gifted teacher who never, okay, this is saying that she never did this thing, which is not a good thing, down to her students. What phrasal verb, what three-word phrasal verb would accurately fit this situation? So we're saying that the teacher is gifted, all right? This is a good thing. But then they would never do this other thing, which is not good. It's bad, to down to someone. So the correct answer, because the first verb starts with a T, I feel like getting some different responses. So I don't think this one's new, but I feel like once I tell you the answer, probably you're going to remember hearing about this at one point or another. To talk down to someone. So if you're talking down to someone, you're just speaking to them in a bit of a condescending way that, like, it's just not very nice. It's pretty rude, and you're talking down to someone. Often you may hear people use this in a context where, like a hierarchy, where someone is the authority and they are talking down to someone who is maybe a subordinate. So think about the example. The teacher is the leader of the classroom, and they talk down to the students. If they talk down to the students, then that's not good. They would be speaking in a condescending way. Or maybe you might say you don't like your boss because he or she talks down to you, and they speak to you in a condescending way. So a lot of times when you come across this phrasal verb, it's like a person in authority may talk down to a subordinate. Now, that's not always the case. You could have friends or colleagues that may also talk down to you or someone else, but it is just to speak to someone in a condescending way. It is negative as well. Just trying to add a little bit of nuance to that. So here is the next question that I have for you. After months of negotiations, the two companies finally managed to out an agreement. To something out. So there were a lot of negotiations, and then eventually you get to this point where there is an agreement. So you could use this phrasal verb to basically, I could say, emphasize the fact that you reached an agreement. Of course, I could take out the phrasal verb and just use the verb reach. Finally, the two companies managed to reach an agreement. That's perfect. That's fine, and that's also commonly used. But if I want to emphasize the fact that there was a lot of work and effort that went into this and trying to figure out and work out an agreement, what word could we use? It begins with an H. See some different responses in there. Nailed it. Hammer out. To hammer out, it just means to work out details through discussion. You're going to hammer something out. A lot of times it is used when talking about some type of agreement, that you need to work with some other person on a project, or if it's a contract or some other negotiation, and you're going to hammer out the details. And you're going to talk about it, discuss it, and then figure things out. So after months of negotiations, the two companies finally managed to hammer out an agreement. So if that was new for you, if any of these are new, let me know. Hit that like button, hit those hearts, whatever. That tells me that, okay, maybe you're learning a new phrase or two, which is perfect. That is my goal in all of these lessons, is that you just learn something new. So this is a fun little cartoon. And using the phrasal verb, I wanted to share it with you. This person says, sorry for interrupting. I didn't realize you were still trying to hammer out an agreement. And of course, they're fighting, which is not a productive way to try to hammer something out. But that is a common collocation with this phrasal verb, to hammer out an agreement. Discuss it, figure it out, and then you come to some type of resolution. Well, I'm going to switch it up a little bit. I now realize, well, let me read this real quickly. She is going to out of the competition because of her injury. There are a lot of particles. A lot of these prepositions are without. Hammer out. I've already gone through several. To phase out. So in this case, this is another one, to out. Starts with a B, and think about the situation, what's going on, and kind of hopefully maybe lead you to the correct response as to, well, what the meaning is. So there's a competition. Of course, this person, she's injured. She's not going to be able to participate. So in that case, she's going to out. It's like you are, in this specific example, withdrawing from, well, this competition in this case. So she is going to out of the competition. And I see some different answers, which tells me maybe, again, this is going to be a new phrasal verb for you, which is perfect. So it's not bail out. That's not what we're looking for. You could say back out, as far as not compete. I'm gonna back out. I'm not gonna do it. But that's not the one I'm looking for. I'd say this is a little more, I think, common in this context. It is a little more advanced. So back out is not the one that I'm looking for, even though that's a good guess. So when talking about a competition or some activity, event that you are supposed to participate in, you are supposed to be a part of it, and then for some reason you can't do it, you are going to bow out of the competition, or bow out of, well, whatever it may be, that whatever activity or role you're going to withdraw from or retire from, and you are going to bow out. She's going to bow out of the competition because of her injury. Now, some of you said back out. That would work. To be honest, that would work in this context as well. But this is the phrasal verb that I wanted you to be familiar with. It is more advanced. If you are supposed to do something, you say, look, I'm not going to be able to do it anymore. I'm going to have to bow out. All right? Can't do it. I got to bow out. So yeah, hopefully it was new. There was some good guesses. Bail out, no, not that one. Bow out, excellent. What do you think? I'm switching it up now. I still want you to try to write the full phrasal verb in there. And now I'm not giving you the main verb or the particle, but I'm giving you the meaning down below. So some of these may be a little easier, others may be a bit more challenging. All right. Public displays of affection are often in conservative cultures. So what do you think? It means to disapprove of something or consider it bad or wrong. All right. What do you think? All right. Wow. Cinderella, thank you so much for the super chat. I love it. Love that you're learning new things. I hope that the rest of you are. Always great to see so many members in here as well. Pete's Coffee. I miss Pete's Coffee back in the Bay Area. Lolly, good to see you. So this is a phrasal verb that I'm going to say that you have definitely heard it before. I don't know if you actively use it, and you might think about using it if you're in a conversation, but I'm pretty sure you've probably heard it before, or maybe you were reading something and you came across this phrasal verb. So public displays of affection, PDA, are often in conservative cultures. So you're talking about disapproving of something. I think we got some, all right, correct answers. So if you disapprove of something, or if you say something like, I don't really approve of this thing, then you could say that it is frowned upon. To frown upon something is to disapprove of it. So it's not saying that it is illegal. You're not saying that, you cannot do it. You're just saying that, it's frowned upon. It'd be like if, so I'll just read the sentence. Public displays of affection are often frowned upon in conservative cultures. Let's say that you and I work together and I'm new, and I say, look, is it okay? Do people care if I show up maybe 5 or 10 minutes late? And you tell me, well, you're not going to get fired, but it's important to be punctual. And if people, it's frowned upon for, people to show up late to work. It's frowned upon. So it's not against the rules or against the laws, but people in general, or in the other example I gave you, your boss or other colleagues, they may disapprove of it. And then you could say that this thing, something, is frowned upon. All right. Hopefully, I don't know. I told you I thought maybe you probably heard of that before, even if you don't actively use it. If it's new, then that's great, because I think it is something that is useful when you want to be a little more descriptive. Now, I thought this was funny, even though it's maybe just my warped sense of humor. I use sarcasm at work because slapping the shit out of someone is frowned upon by management. All right, they don't want people to slap other colleagues, so this person says they use sarcasm. It's just a joke, but I thought it was another good example using the phrasal verb frowned upon. And I would say that I think often it's used that somebody asks you something, hey, is this okay? And you say, well, you should know that this is frowned upon, that people disapprove of this thing. It is frowned upon. What do you think? He his emotions, which is not good for his mental health. We're talking about to repress or conceal feelings over time. This is a little more challenging. I think it's a little more challenging, but I don't want to give it away. He his emotions. All right, you repress them, you conceal them, and it keeps things in there, and yeah, it's not good for people. But I think a lot of people do that, myself included. Instead of, I'm not always able to talk to someone, or I have that ability, and in that case, I just things. I was about to say the particle, but I don't want to. I feel like maybe you guys are familiar with this one. Great job, Talal, Christoph, Dawit, Julia, talking about bottling something up. To bottle up means to repress or conceal feelings. Think about the meaning, because I said these are specific, because when you want to use bottle up, you really are talking about feelings and emotions, and those are the things that you're trying to repress, and you don't want to think about it, and it can be difficult. I think this is a phrasal verb that we can all relate to, and I imagine, I told you, I've done this before. I imagine you have as well, and there was a time when you just wanted to repress some of these feelings, and you bottled them up. He bottles up his emotions, which is not good for his mental health. All right, as always, wow, Cinderella, thank you. Thank you so much. Hopefully some of these are new. And remember, if you want these lesson notes, check out the link down in the description. Join the community. But again, if you're already a part of it, I've sent them to you. He started as a mechanic, but has into engine repair for boats. So the phrasal verb that we're referring to, the meaning is to extend or expand one's activities or interest in a new direction. And that's kind of key. Something, it's completely new. You're trying something new. You're going in a new direction. What is it that you are then doing? So for context, he started as a mechanic, but now there's a new direction, fixing engines on boats. All right, it's a little different than maybe working on cars. So it's not like completely different, but it is still something new. And you could say this person is doing what? I'll go ahead and give you a hint, since I haven't seen any correct answers. I mentioned that many of these phrasal verbs, I don't know why, it's just the way it happened, that the particle is out. This one also is so you have the main verb followed by out. He started as a mechanic, but has out into engine repair for boats. Any guesses? All right, so maybe we have a new phrasal verb for most of you, for just about everyone. And I think whenever you want to try new things, like if this is your first time here, I think it's great. I want you to participate. And I think it's always good to branch out and try new things. I feel like you could think about the meaning of this phrasal verb in relation to a tree. You have tree branches, they spread out, they go into different directions, and I think that may be a good association with this phrasal verb, and you're trying to branch out. Let's look at the next one. He made a commitment to the team, but he didn't with his responsibilities. So the meaning is to continue an action or task to its conclusion. I do think this is a little trickier. This is a little more challenging. You may be familiar with it, but I feel like I'm probably not giving you the best example sentence to really think, oh, okay, this is the answer. He made a commitment to the team, but he did not with his responsibilities. So in this case, I'm saying he did not continue, with this commitment or the promise to its conclusion, and therefore you could say he did not with his responsibilities. So there may be, I'm trying to think, I see not carry on, not, I wouldn't say stick with. Again, the answer I think would be a phrasal verb that would be most accurate, that would most accurately fit this context. So the answer, well done, Cinderella, talking about follow through. To follow through is to continue an action to its conclusion. One thing I want to point out with follow through, you may often follow it with the preposition on or with. In this case, I don't think it really matters. It's really interchangeable. So in my first example, I had used with. He didn't follow through with his responsibilities. But down here, if I wanted to use on, I think it's okay as well. He made a commitment to the team, but he didn't follow through on his responsibilities. So to follow through means to continue something until its conclusion. You may follow it with on or with, or you don't have to. It really depends on the situation. But to give you a little more context when you're thinking about, okay, on or with, does it really matter? Is one more commonly used than another? A great resource that I think I tend to point out with some of these is using Ngram Viewer. If you have a similar phrase, two different phrases that are similar or completely different, and you just want to know which one is more often used, then you could put them in there and it graphs it out. Is used, just slightly more often than to follow through with, but in general, you could use either to follow through on, to follow through with. Just something to keep in mind. Here is the next one. She can the names of all 50 states in alphabetical order. So the meaning of this phrasal verb is to say, perform, or produce something quickly and effortlessly. What do you think? She can the names of all 50 states in alphabetical order. This is another one that I think you've probably heard. Maybe you don't actively use it as much, but if there are any guesses? I do apologize for the connection. I don't know that the background's going to change over the course of the next weeks or months. I'm at an Airbnb right now, so the internet is it seems like it's hit and miss. It's not your connection, it's mine. It's on me. So I apologize. Hopefully it won't go out again. So she can the names of all 50 states in alphabetical order. The phrasal verb that we're looking for, if you can say, perform, produce something easily, effortlessly, to rattle off something, and you just do it quickly, easily, and it really is like there's some information that you're trying to convey or share, and you could say that you can rattle off this information or rattle off these names. So this is actually when I was younger, I could, I don't know, I'm not going to do the whole thing. I can't, but you're familiar with melodic learning, using a melody to learn something. It really helps you remember it. And when I was a kid, one of the teachers, they did this same thing with the names in alphabetical order. It goes something like Alabama, Alaska, Arkansas, Arizona, California, Connecticut, Delaware, Florida, Georgia, Hawaii, Idaho, Illinois, Indiana. All right, that's all. I'm not gonna make you suffer through more of my singing, but that would be an example of using the song to rattle off the names of these states. What do you think? Here's another one. He to his friend and followed her around the party. This is one is a bit more challenging. To follow someone and try to maybe talk to them, or you're trying to get their attention, especially when this other person, maybe they just want to be alone, or they just don't want to be near or close to you, and you're just trying to follow them around, hey, da, 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 da. And it's almost like you are doing something to this person. He to his friend and followed her around the party. What do you think? Again, I apologize for my singing, but I just wanted to give you an example of rattling off some of those U.S. states in alphabetical order. So I tried to do that. Maybe, I don't know if this was much of a hint when you're following someone around and you're really trying to stay close. So in this context, if you're following someone, you're trying to get their attention, you could say that you are latching onto this person. So he latched onto his friend and followed her around the party. You're following someone, you just want their attention. And this other person, they want to be alone, but you may latch on to this person. This is actually from Longman. I try to vary up some of these sources from time to time, but I wanted to let you know there are different contexts in which you can use this phrasal verb. So to latch on to somebody or something, you could use it in the context of becoming very interested in something. If you can't see this, I'll read the example sentences to you. The first one, don't just latch on to the latest management fads. So don't latch on to some trend, and you're just really interested in it. The next meaning, these are all rather informal. To follow someone, trying to keep talking to them, get their attention. This was the one that I shared with you as far as latching on to someone at the party, and you're just following them around. And then the third one is more the literal meaning. I think one that most people think of when you think of the phrasal verb to latch on to something, holding something tightly with your hand or mouth, of course, like the baby latching on to its mother's breast. And you could use this phrasal verb in those different contexts. So these are the 12 phrasal verbs that we went through today. Hopefully, some of them are new. I also hope that you were familiar with several of them already, perhaps passively. And then over time, the more you get exposure to them, practice using them like you were today, it just helps you make it a part of your active vocabulary so that next time you're in a conversation, you could use some of these. If you're doing some activity, you say, okay, well, we're not going to keep doing it forever. We're going to phase it out. We're going to gradually phase it out. Or you want to talk about some medication that's starting to wear off, or you're going to hammer out an agreement with someone, or maybe you're not going to be able to compete in a competition and you say, look, I'm going to have to bow out. So there are specific situations in which you can use them, which is why I say they are definitely a little more advanced. So if you enjoyed the lesson with these super useful phrasal verbs and learned something new, let me know by hitting that like button. You can also let me know how you did on the quiz in the comments.